whatever you did to change your mic or something, it doesn't matter. You don't need to fiddle with it. Every time you talk, there's like crickets going on in the background.
Oh, you want me to shut my window?
I don't think that's it. Maybe it is.
I'm sure that's it, because I don't know what else would be making crickets.
I just thought it was like white noise.
Why has everything got to be white with you?
What was that?
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth. 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 199,999. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me as always is my co-host, Seth.
Isn't it crazy that I'm always here?
It is so crazy.
People come and go, but I'm always here.
Friendships last forever.
Zach and Pete come and go.
And Joe never shows.
Joe always goes.
Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't be here today because he wandered off the timeline and we had to delete him with a baton. And our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but he's sworn only to watch and never interfere with the sacred timeline.
I mean, a week off and we are in it to win it. I'm feeling good. We're like at it.
So, Seth, what did we watch this week?
Well, Andrew, I'm glad you asked. We watched the first half of Loki. That would be the 3 episodes out of 6, which originally premiered on June 9th, 2021. Just a few months ago. Can you believe that? There were so much Marvel properties. So many Marvel properties. So, in our episodes today, the mercurial villain Loki resumes his role as the God of Mischief in a new series that takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame. The synopsis is not even about the show. It's just about, well, it is about the show, just not the show. It's like the meta synopsis.
Does it take place after the events of Endgame, or does it take place after, before, and during the events of Endgame?
Ooh, you want me to rewrite this? You want me to get on IMDb and rewrite this?
Seth, in a sentence or less, what did you think of the first 3 episodes of Loki?
Well, I think I said this last time, but I'm going into these wondering how I would feel if they weren't Marvel properties. And I don't think they would be saved. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this. And this is even outside of the whole Marvel Universe muck that we call it now. I felt it was a little messy. I like time travel stories, and I've been told before, as someone who likes time travel stories, that like time travel stories suck because there's no stakes and all da. And this was a time travel story that I was just kind of like, I have no fucking clue what's happening and what the stakes are and what the rules are. I don't care about who any of these people are. Hey, also, I watched a Treehouse of Horror and an episode of Servant, and I read a chapter of Naruto. So I don't know what the fuck happened in these 3 episodes. So you'll be like, what was your favorite? 2 put-ups and a put-down. I'll be like, I liked when Naruto did his little run, and I liked when Homer got an axe in his face.
So my sentence or less, I thought this was incredibly boring.
Did you like this when it came out?
When it came out, I thought it was fine.
That's what you say about all of them, I think.
I've said this about all of them, and I think watching only 1 episode a week and not having any idea what anything is going to do, it's more compelling. Knowing where this all leads, knowing what it is, and that's not even to say good or bad, it just means, like, I know what's happening, so, like, I'm not interested, I don't have that momentum of, like, I wonder where this is going and how it's going to pay off. I already know the answer.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't know where this is going, and I'm already there.
I'm just saying, like, I think watching them week by week, where you only get to watch 1 episode, and I'm fully invested in that 50 minutes or whatever, to sit there and watch it, and then kind of digest it for a week. Not that I really think about Loki, especially. I didn't really think about too much, but you know, I have some time with it, and then I go into the next one. In this one, I was just kind of trying to get through it. I found it incredibly boring. Every episode felt like it was so long because none of them had like a focus. I felt like each one could have been a 20-minute to 30-minute episode, but instead they stretched them out to justify being that premiere television.
In the 3rd episode, when they're like we have to go to the Ark. I was like, okay, well, surely the credits are going to roll, because, like, they already had, like, a fight on the train, they already did this, and I was like, oh, no, they're still going,
that one,
okay.
The third episode, I think, is the biggest offender of just, like, there's no point to this. It's just to facilitate a couple conversations. And as someone who likes the conversations, not in this, but just, like, in general, like, that's what I want out of these. I want less action and more conversation. Like, I don't care about any of the conversations. I feel like this show, much like the Marvel Universe in general, has no idea who Loki is.
Yeah,
and
Loki
like,
kind of feels like a different character here.
He feels like a different character every time he shows up, but he really feels like a different character here. I feel like the show is weird in this, like, he's kind of an idiot, and I think it's because it wants to be like it doesn't
everybody
really
needs to be
necessarily...
smarmy cocksure anymore. That's the only character in the MCU.
Well, and it also feels like the show kind of wants to be not really a comedy, but it has like a bunch of like not really even comedy bits. I don't know how to explain this.
Welcome to the MCU.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I'm saying like this is
yeah.
I think this is the worst offender of the MCU-ness. Like, I feel like it has weird, like, okay, you said earlier, like, if this wasn't Marvel, would it save it? And you said no. And I think that's true. I think the show still just doesn't stand on its own two legs. But I feel like if it was not Marvel, I think I'd accept it better, because it has this weird fusion of like retro future bullshit, time travel, wibbly wobbly nonsense, magic.
The world building of the first episode is fairly compelling enough to, like,
I feel like it is in a completely different thing, but in the Marvel Universe, it comes off as complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Because it comes off as like a comedy show. Like, it comes off like The Good Place. I don't know if you watched The Good Place, but The Good Place... Yet, no. The Good Place is basically a thing where they're like, here's heaven, and it's all kind of like regimented and bureaucratic and like, not necessarily, but it's just kind of like, let's take something interesting and make it kind of mundane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the joke. That's the comedy thing. And this does that, but the show is not a comedy, even though it has basically everything presented as a comedy. Like, everything is presented in this weird, awkward, like, there's no way this would really work this way. There wouldn't be all this, like, analog paper documents for all of time and a little, like the
CRT screens.
Yeah. Like, that's all stupid, but it's fine in something completely different. Honestly, it would be completely fine in a Marvel comic. But in the MCU, it's just, like, weird nonsense. And I kind of hate it.
So I have one more question, and then we'll get into the episode proper, so you can have a break in the
breakdown.
Not you, no, not you. So you know where to put the bumps. I don't know. Is there what's the like Crisis on Infinite Earths of Marvel? I always felt like Marvel just kind of was like,
Marvel doesn't have a Crisis on Infinite Earths.
They're like, just kind of like
if
sweeping
you want like
retcons under the table.
If you want like a big event like that, I guess the closest was probably Secret Wars from, I don't know, a couple years ago, maybe a decade ago, because that did have like a fusion of worlds that then the world was kind of rewritten when everything came back, but it was rewritten in a similar but different way. It is the closest to the Crisis of Infinite Earths that I am aware of Marvel has ever gotten as an actual event that had like quote unquote consequences that were basically rewriting continuity.
And I guess the other thing is, I mean, I guess Marvel doesn't necessarily have the universe play that I felt DC always had. Like, Marvel's
DC always does the
616.
big reset, whereas Marvel is like just a continuous evolution of the universe. It just, everything moves forward, and kind of like you said, continuity swept under the rug when it's inconvenient and brought back when it is.
And I mean, I guess like House of M was like a big retcon event, and like,
I think I wouldn't call that a retcon event, because it doesn't
all it
really
does is retcon anything. It just
removes mutants, and that's not really so much a retcon as it is just like the new status quo.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Like, I think the only retcon event, like I said, is Secret Wars, because that was the one that took the Ultimate Universe and fused it into the 616, and a couple other like stragglers from alternate timelines and universes show up in the main universe, and a couple.
Because I guess with Gwen Stacy now, she's kind of the biggest. I mean, Marvel never really had like inter-universe stuff like DC had, where they needed to do a Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff like that, and New 52 and all of and just constantly just like collapsing all the universes in on each other. That's what I was thinking when I was watching this, because it's kind of the same storyline. And I was just kind of like, I don't ever remember Marvel ever doing something like that. And I did look it up, and like, these are all things in the Marvel universe. Granted, they're all, I mean, I don't know how recent they are, but they're all like 70s storylines and stuff like that. And so I don't know if they're just digging deep, or if, you know, more. I mean, you know more about the Marvel universe than I do, but yeah, I guess I was surprised that, I mean, I know it's because they're setting up Multiverse of Madness, but it's just kind of something where I'm just like, Marvel's not really a universe thing. I mean, now they are with Spider-Verse and stuff like that, but whatever. Let's jump in, shall we?
Curse sploosh.
We're both ready.
Go ahead and take the reins. I don't have anything to say.
I don't think I did either. I think I just did the thing where I was like, and to move on. So, I don't think the first episode's too bad. It's all exposition. It's all world building.
I think it's all fun. I think it was only boring for me because I felt like it didn't, because I know where everything is going, and I know that by the third episode, it doesn't have the same shift that WandaVision did, but by the third episode, you learn, like, it's not the show that I thought it was. I thought this was going to be a buddy cop time romp. And
with
it's
Tom
not.
and Owen.
Yeah, and it's not. And it abandons that fucking fast.
It does. And actually, I actually really think Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson have a good chemistry together, but I absolutely hate every scene between Loki and Sylvie, I guess, to make it
I like
easier.
Sylvie, but I don't like their scenes together. I think a lot of the ideas are half-baked. They're presented, and then they act like they say something, but they don't. I feel like Loki is an idiot in this. Like, he's a straight up moron.
Mm-hmm. I agree
he's
with
turned
that.
into like kind of a parody of himself.
Flanders, he's kind of bumbling and like, I mean, he's Woody Cocksure, and I mean, all the characters are like this anymore.
And like, I don't know. There's a thing where he like sits down and basically gives a thesis statement on Loki that I feel is disingenuous and stupid, and Owen Wilson does the same thing, and I don't know. The only thing I really like, not the only thing, but the big thing that I really like from the first two episodes is I was kind of surprised at the pace that it moved. Because at the very beginning, I said, they're hunting Loki. And I thought we were going to spend the whole fucking season before, like,
It's
at
revealed
least
that
the
he's
halfway
hunting
point
Loki.
where they're like, oh my gosh, it's Loki. And I'm like, everybody fucking knows. But they reveal that pretty fast.
And it's a decent cliffhanger.
And in the second episode, I said, Loki is a woman. Like, they showed all the different variants, and I was like, they're hiding who this person is. I also know that there is a female Loki out there. It feels like it's trying to do something. If you're going to hire another actor, it doesn't matter who it is, but if it's a woman, that's something you hide, because
That's a big thing.
it's more than just like another face.
Comic book man children are going to complain about it.
So I spent the whole episode going, it's a woman, and that's the reveal. Like, they revealed the Loki thing early because the real twist is that it's a woman. And then by the end of the second episode, they revealed that it's a woman. I'm like, oh, okay, they're not going to string us along with bullshit. But then the rest of the series is just kind of like other stuff I don't care about. I don't care about the Time Lords, the Time Masters, whatever the fuck
You
they
say
are.
that, and I feel like a lot of this feels Doctor Who-y.
I think it does too, and the same kind of like fantasy. I think the time travel stuff is kind of fantasy adjacent, where it's more just kind of like that sci-fi fantasy that Doctor Who waddles around in, where it tells itself it's sci-fi, but it's more nonsense and falls more into like they may as well be waving wands around.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like with Loki, since he's kind of bumbling now, he wears like the suit and tie. He just kind of feels like Sylvie kind of has like the River Song vibe to her, where she's just kind of like she knows more than she lets on, and like she's a little more aggressive than he is. There's a scene where Loki like runs towards the camera and he does like a comical like arms and legs at full 90-degree angles, and I was like, I feel like they just kind of like watched a ton of Doctor Who and were like, let's kind of do that.
I guess you might be right. I think that's more coincidence, but I also, there's no way that there's not Doctor Who influence here. Like, It's very clear. I think you might be drawing more conclusions, but I could be wrong. Maybe
I have no idea. That's just something that, like, when I was watching it, I was just kind of like, this feels very... And I mean, I haven't watched Doctor Who in probably 10 years, so I don't know what it's like now, but it just kind of feels very... It felt very similar to me, where it was just kind of like this whimsical science fantasy show where Loki just kind of bungles into his own spots and uses his wiles to kind of overcome obstacles. I especially noticed it in the third episode when they're on like the distant planet, and it felt kind of like it's a big planet, but it's a small set because the BBC
I
doesn't
thought
have
that
the budget.
planet looked awful. It is the most where the budget is apparent. It looks like everybody's running around in a green screen that was half-assed. It looks so terrible.
I'm sure they
Like,
were.
I mean, they absolutely were, but like it just looked horrid when they were running around and everything was just purple.
I will say though, the end of the third episode, I actually really liked. I hate action scenes that I can't tell what is going on, and I definitely couldn't tell what was going on when they're like going to the Ark. But that was like, that gave me serious Children of Men vibes with the continuous take and just like stuff happening around them as they're trying to like continuously move up and progress. And I was impressed by it. As someone who literally went in when they said, we got to go to the Ark, I was like, and credits. Nope, we're still going. I'm not ready for this. I was actually entertained.
I felt it boring. I didn't really know what was going on. Loki's powers are kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
They always have been, but there's a point where he like pushes a building away or something.
Yeah, there's like the tower that's gonna fall on him, and he's just like, I have these powers now. And I was like, when? What?
Also, like, speaking, because we'll just go wherever, whenever. Speaking
just like
of
the show.
the ending, the Ark, the like ship that's going to get everyone off the planet, gets hit and blows up. And they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? And I thought, Sylvie knew what this planet was the second they went outside.
Mm-hmm.
So she knew the history of this planet. Wouldn't she know that the Ark doesn't make it? Because nothing they did would affect that. And that's the other thing about the variances in this, is that basically the existence of a variant may or may not just cause time to go haywire. Like, they treat the variants, like, the variants are there to, like, later on as we go, there's more fun stuff with variants, but it's also just, like, timelines kind of do whatever the show wants them to do, and it doesn't seem to care or matter. And so, like, as I understand how time would work, that Ark never makes it off that planet. Every single time it blows up because something falls from the sky. Nothing Loki and Sylvie did wandering around matters. Especially because I think the whole reason they go there is because Sylvie has a bunch of apocalypses pre-programmed into, I could be wrong, but I assume the reason they went there is because Sylvie had apocalypses pre-programmed into that thing so that she could jump to them when she needed to. And the only way those apocalypses work, which makes, I'm going to do another time travel thing where I talk about how nothing makes any fucking sense, so much like in Endgame, Loki gives this explanation of how Sylvie could be hiding in apocalypses. And he talks about at Ragnarok, he could do whatever he wants. He could push Hulk off the bridge and it wouldn't matter. And I thought it would matter because Hulk survives that event. The only time an apocalypse matters, which is what they say later when they go to Pompeii, is there can be no survivors. Then it doesn't matter what you do because all that matters is at the end, the city is razed to the ground. So it doesn't matter if you tell everybody what's about to happen or if you stab someone's mom. Nothing matters because none of those people have lives that are influenced by any divergence before this untimely end. Or timely end, I suppose. But his whole Ragnarok explanation that he gives doesn't make any sense because there are tons of survivors for it. And he specifically gives an example of how he could affect the timeline without ruining anything with one person who very clearly definitely lives through it. And not only definitely lives through it, but affects the ability for other people to live through it.
But see, okay, the Ragnarok bit with Loki wasn't about explaining how time works. It was a funny joke about Owen Wilson's salad.
It was.
But no, we can spend literally 4 hours, and I'm fine putting time into this, because there's a lot to talk about. But this show has zero bridge logic in the sense that, like, you think about anything more past the direct words that were said, and
oh, absolutely,
you're fucking gone.
It sits down and explains its stupid logic, and it never makes any sense. Like, this also explains like how the timeline works and how like divergence work and how Loki can escape with the cosmic cube and it doesn't actually matter because they go in and clean up the timeline from Endgame. And I forget if they said it in these episodes or if they say it in a later episode, but at some point someone says like the Avengers are allowed to go around in fucking time because that's what always happened.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Like, that was part of the true timeline, was that the Avengers go back and fuck with time. But it also means the Avengers don't need to put the stones back. My little rant about how them putting the stones back doesn't make any sense still technically stands, but this show basically says it doesn't matter if they put the stones back or not because we go into the timeline and fix it and make sure that it always continues the way it was supposed to. So the Avengers could just keep the stones. And it doesn't matter, except for the fact that would diverge their timeline because stones still exist there.
Well, I was trying to figure out at the very beginning when they were like, oh, you diverged when you picked up the Tesseract. Like, that shouldn't have happened. And I was like, okay, but like, he was able to pick up the Tesseract because of something that should have happened that didn't happen the first time in the real timeline. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how far back do you want to go, buddy? You know, like when they're asking if he's guilty, it's like, well, I don't know. Why don't you get like Hulk in here because he took the stairs and that's a thing? Or why don't you get Ant-Man in here because he kicked the briefcase and like.
Well, and that's the other thing with like the timelines. Also, real quick, since we're on it, apparently Loki can't teleport himself. He can only teleport with the cosmic cube.
I don't fucking know.
The Tesseract being, I think the Tesseract was the Space Stone, is what allows him to teleport. This is fine. I'm just saying it because that seems to imply how he was able to teleport away. Because when he grabs the box and teleported away, I was thinking like, Why didn't he just teleport at any other time? What is keeping him from teleport?
Right, that's what
I think it is the box.
It is the box, but I don't think it was always the box. I think at some point he had the ability to teleport.
Speaking of the timelines and the divergence and the, what is it they call them?
Variants.
The variants. I don't understand how any of this works. What changed to make Loki Sylvie? And I went through the entire series until it does give an answer in the back half, thinking, oh, this is just a Loki who's transgender, who just decided
he enchanted himself to be a woman.
Yeah, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. But that's not true, because later on, unless I guess it's possible that she did it at an early age, but we see her as a child. I'm also not sure. I think she might not be half frost giant. I don't know. But we see her as a child, so maybe she made the decision early. But this goes back to, where do these timelines start mattering? Like with Sylvie, I forget, and again, I might be speaking about stuff we see too early. We see her as a child, and I believe that when she's a child is when she basically escapes her timeline going haywire.
This is for next week.
Okay. Point is, I guess this is a next week conversation. I'm just wondering where exactly, like,
does the divergence nobody cares except for us.
Problem. Yeah.
Because when they're on the train and they're talking about their origins, and the show thinks it's like clearing up the fog, and I was like, I have no fucking clue what you're telling me and how any of this relates to the timeline. And like, because I agree. I thought Sylvie was just kind of Loki just enchanting himself to be a woman. He was just like, because that's what Loki is. Like, he's just, I can be whatever I want. Yeah, I'm a mercurial villain, and I'm resuming my role as the God of Mischief in a new series that takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame. But like, when they're flipping through all the Loki variants, and they're just like, they're any shape and size, and I was just like, because he can just transform into whatever. He can shapeshift. That was always kind of a thing.
But they say it in the show as if, like, we could just go to a timeline where Captain America is
JL Apes. Well, I guess Marvel Apes. But, like, where he's a gorilla vampire.
And that's just a divergence somewhere in the timeline. And it's all fine, because that's how the multiverse works. But the way the show treats it is that...
But is a multiverse... I mean, I guess so. I guess to me, like, a multiverse is different than a diverging timeline. It's not, for all intents and purposes.
For all intents and purposes, it's not. And in the Marvel Universe, I can say, as far as we see the multiverse, it literally just is a divergent timeline.
Is that true?
As far as...
Like, Marvel Apes is just a divergent. It's just a butterfly flapped in...
I'm saying for the MCU. As someone who has seen how far we've gone in the MCU right now, as far as we have seen, the only thing that a multiverse is diverging timelines.
The multiverse is the 1,000 billion futures that Doctor Strange saw. And yeah, that's fine.
And so JL8... Or JL Apes, that's the...
Marvel Apes, I keep making that too. Yeah.
Marvel Apes would probably just be a divergent timeline where rather than humans becoming the predominant species...
We got a Planet of the Apes thing.
Which is fine, and you can do that. You can work your way down, even if, if we get to Spider-Man No Way Home and they do have the Raimiverse in there, the Raimiverse is just another divergent timeline somewhere where Iron Man never happened or something, I don't know. And that's all fine, it doesn't matter. But it's just, again... It's a show that's part of it exists to provide answers, to explain things.
But it does not. It does the exact opposite.
But it is doing a terrible job. And it's fine for everybody else. No one cares. But you and me, like, I sat there watching this the first time going like, I don't understand how fucking any of this works. It doesn't make any sense. And the answer is it doesn't matter.
Nobody cares.
All that matters is that we explain that the multiverse can happen.
Because we got a new movie coming out. I was saying early on when they're talking about all the different Loki variants, and I agree with you that I was kind of on board with an Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston buddy cop thing where they kind of go and they're like, I mean, we'll never get a Monster of the Week, but like where they go and they're just like, hey, we got to go stop Ape Loki because he's trying to break into our timeline. But the show's just like, no, we got to explain how nothing works and how everything is gobbledygook, and we got a new movie coming out that everyone's going to want to see.
And I guess that's my other problem with the show, is not even just that it has to explain, but it has to be important. It has to matter. So it has to be lost. It has to have a reason behind everything, a mystery to solve. Who are the timekeepers? Who are the whatever? What's going on? What's the multiverse?
But like,
all this kind of stuff. But I agree. Like, I think I could accept the weird retro future crap and the like weird comedy Loki if the show was just like each week we hunt down a different Loki variant. Let's just say like Lokis are the most predominant variants out there because they are so mercurial and so mischievous that they are constantly slipping out of their timeline's destruction and going haywire. And each episode was just Owen Wilson and Loki having to hunt down that episode's Loki. And then you could get crazy stuff.
Because we're 3 episodes in, and I know, like, I think in the 3rd episode, like you said, is kind of the turn where Sylvie's like, what you think is true is not true, and everyone in the audience is like, oh my god, what? And I was eating potato chips on my couch, and I was like, what the fuck?
And I sat there and went, yeah, no shit. When Owen Wilson said that they just, like, created them, but he's always wanted to ride a jet ski, I was just like, they're real people.
If I know anything about TV shows, it's that everything they tell me in the first episode is true, because that makes it so that the midweek swap, or the mid-season swap, interesting. But, like, at no point, I know, like, the first episode or the second episode or whatever, Loki's just like, I want to meet the timekeepers, I want to meet your lizard men, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, and, like, I'm doing this so I can meet the timekeepers. And I was just like, I don't care about who the timekeepers are. That's not, like, the villain of the piece is variant Lokis.
See, and I guess part of the problem is, like, when Loki says he wants to know who the timekeepers are, which granted is exactly, as far as I understand Loki's character, something he would want to know. But as soon as he says that, that's when I go, there's something up with them.
Yeah.
They're either not real, or they're up to something mischievous, or the TVA is up to something mischievous, or the TVA isn't what it seems like. As soon as he starts asking questions, I know there's answers. Mm-hmm. And the answers aren't just going to be they're a bunch of lizard men that watch the timeline. They're going to have like some kind of evil mastermind thing, or they're all going to be fucking Wizard of Oz heads, and there's a man behind the curtain, or whatever.
Are they watchers? Don't tell me.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
Are they?
I'm just telling you, like, I'm not going to tell you anything. All I'm going to tell you is, like,
Buckle up.
You learn answers.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be whatever. I'm sure it'll be my put down next week.
It's just, I don't know. It abandons the premise that I found so interesting so quickly. And same thing with, like, you could say in, like, a Doctor Who sort of way, like, going to the far-off future to another planet is a fun use of time travel. For me, that's really fucking boring. I wanted to go, like, interesting places. I wanted to go through the movies. Like, not that I care about going through the movies, but I guess, like, that's what you've got. That's what this universe is here for. I don't want to go through the movies, but I'm also just, like, that's what I find interesting. Like, let's have Loki, like, in the background of, like, movies that he's not a part of.
Do a little MST3K?
Not even that. I'm just saying, like, we show up, at Morag before Star-Lord shows up, and they fuck up the timeline for a second to do something. And we don't even need to have Chris Pratt show up. I'm just saying, like, you've got this universe, do something with it. They don't even go anywhere interesting. They go to Pompeii for a goofy joke scene. They go to
Wisconsin for the Renaissance Fair.
The Renaissance Fair, which doesn't matter, and they play obnoxious music.
They go to Future Walmart, and they go to Doctor Who Planet.
Future Walmart was interesting before they went into the Future Walmart. When it was like this like rainy apocalypse thing, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And there was like the hologram person outside the building. I was like, this could be kind of fun. And then they just go inside and it's just a Walmart. It could have been 2018 for all it mattered.
I didn't mind Future Walmart. It wasn't where they said we were going, where it was like, oh, there's like a storm and a hurricane, and there's like civilians locked like here, and they're like taking shelter. And it's not that, which would have been interesting.
Speaking also of, I meant to say this earlier, just another like point of like proving that I'm smarter than the dumb TV show. When they talk about the timelines and how they can go to the apocalypse and they can do whatever they want and it doesn't matter because it doesn't diverge the timeline. And Loki, when he's explaining this, says like Loki can go to the same place over and over again as many times as he wants and it doesn't matter. So anytime he needs to go somewhere to get out of your hair, he can just go back to that same timeline. And I thought, can he though? Then there'd just be like a million Lokis there. Like it's not like the timeline resets when it like wipes clean. It would only reset if the TVA showed up and wiped it clean because there's a divergence, but there isn't a divergence. So that just means each time he goes there, there's another him there. And then it no longer becomes a safe haven. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is like a stupid point of contention, but this is like the show just like saying things, and then I'm supposed to go, yeah, Loki, and I go, none of this makes any fucking sense. And hey, going to the same place over and over again and meeting yourself so that you can do your master plan with a bunch of yous, probably not a bad idea, but it doesn't care.
Hey, if you want to talk about things that don't care, let's talk about me. No, hey, do you remember after Evil Walmart, when Sylvie was like, you ruined my plan somehow that happened? It like still worked, but it didn't, I guess.
What was her plan? She was like trying to blow up the Evil Walmart? Or the
I
apocalypse
hate
Walmart?
capitalism. No, she was gonna. Yeah, she hates. She wanted
I'm
to
gonna
like
be
blow
honest.
up
Like
the
I
time
was
stream.
so bored.
So she made a bunch
during
of little
all three of
small.
these
She
episodes.
stole a bunch of little reset devices so that the animators can do that effect they love so much because it happens all the goddamn fucking time. She puts them all in the little time doorways because she's gonna blow up the TVA, I guess.
Oh
Or
yeah,
the time
yeah.
stream. And that happens. They all fall through the doors, but then Sylvie's like, "You ruined it," and I was like, "Oh, okay, how?"
I can't defend you or the show because, like I said, I was so
Did you fall
bored
asleep
during
this
those.
one?
No, but I just kept like
You would
tuning out.
never.
I just kept like tuning out. Like I was just so bored that I just like it didn't help that I also have already watched this, so I was kind of like, I know what's going on. Like when we got to the third episode and I knew you were waiting on me,
You were just like, "Fuck it, I'll do it off the top."
I
just
almost
rip.
turned it off because I knew the last like 7 minutes was just them running towards the
You're
ship.
like,
that
I could just watch it. I
blows
could just
up.
read a synopsis while we're talking.
I was just like, I could just turn this off and like save myself 7 minutes. And I was like, I should just watch it. Maybe I'll see something worth saying. And I didn't.
I like that.
Well, I saw Loki like catch the building and then throw it up, and I went, "What the fuck?"
He did
When
like a
he get
weird
these
like
powers?
chest bump on it with magic.
I like that.
No,
Sylvie
I'm not even
is
done. This isn't even
Oh,
what I
sorry.
wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about when she's like, "You ruined my plan," and everyone is like, "No, he didn't." The script that's not the timeline you're in, I guess. The timekeepers who kept it, not Loki. And then she makes a door to the TVA, and then she runs through, and then Owen Wilson's like, "Don't you do that, Loki?" And he's like, "But this is the only door that stayed open longer than like 20 seconds." And then he just like runs in, and then like as soon as he runs in, the door vanishes. And I was like, "Is that because the script needed it?"
That's how it always works.
It's just like, I know nobody cares about that, but us, goddamn, it's so
I'm
noticeable.
gonna be honest. Nobody cares about that, but you. I mean,
You would
I
if you
noticed
cared
those kind
more
of
about.
things.
You would if this was the first time you were watching it. If you didn't already clock out.
Doors staying open just the right amount of time is always whatever to me.
I don't know.
Because it happened.
It's so
It's happened in
noticeable.
another movie.
It happens in every movie, but it's just like it's so noticeable.
It is just something where I'm just like, it's whatever to me.
You're like,
everything
yep, and then
fucking does it.
Yep, and in sitcoms, people just open the door and never close them, and you're totally fine with it. People don't say bye when they hang up the phone.
I don't know. I like Sylvie is a Loki, but she's also the Enchantress. But it's also just like, again, it doesn't matter, but it's part of the Marvel crap that I don't care. We're like,
Muck, TM.
yeah, the Marvel muck.
TM.
Everything just kind of like, there's references to things, and everything is just kind of like half-assed introduced. Like Batroc the Leaper is just kind of there, and then he gets killed in Falcon and Winter Soldier because they don't care. They don't have anything to do with him, and that's fine. He's Batroc the Leaper. Like, what are
Who
you going to
cares?
do with him? But it's also just like, I don't know. Like, Sylvie is the Enchantress. That's fun. But that also means that the Enchantress is not an actual character. She's a variant of Loki who's probably never going to see the light of day outside of this series.
Season 2. The series is so nice, they filmed it twice.
She could show up in another, and she could show up in a Thor movie, but it's also just like, she's not really the Enchantress. She is, she's not. It doesn't matter. Do I care that much? No, but it's also just, I don't know. It's like a weird thing where like I don't care and do care at the same time. Like I don't care and it irritates me.
You don't care because it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you do care because it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know who you are.
And it's not even like the opportunity that I have like planned. Like I'm like, oh, this is
I
what
have
they
a
should've done.
spec
It's just
script.
like,
If only they would have talked to me. I wrote a whole thing about the Enchantress.
it's just like, it's just like, here's the Enchantress, and then we'll never use her again. And if we do, we have to find some like weird backwards cartwheel way to
Hey, it's Variant.
throw her in as someone else.
Owen Wilson will show. It's Variant Enchantress. She's a monkey.
There we go.
Now we're talking. Shaved orangutan. So, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Tara Strong?
I don't know. Tara Strong is, everybody loves that stupid little clock thing. She's whatever. She's
Whatever.
fine.
It's
In a completely different show, I think I would be almost the same amount of ambivalent, but I think I would have probably accepted it more in like a show where the whole thing is like this goofy, like I said, retro future time comedy.
okay. So the first episode is the most episode that if it was not Marvel, I think I would be like, this could be interesting. But since it was,
There's a lot of fun stuff in it. I think there's some good jokes. I think there's some funny bits. I like the like robot thing when he walks through the thing and he's like, what would happen if I was a robot? I think that's a funny joke and something completely different.
I mean, we've said this before. Maybe I've just said it because I'm a hater, but I don't know. Miss Minutes feels like corporate. We need Baby Yoda. We need Baby Groot. We need a goofy meme people can latch it. Like, we need a GIF. We need this. Everything feels sterile. Everything feels corporate. Everything feels focus grouped, which means there's just like so little creativity coming through. and it's just me being pessimistic. I know everybody loves these. I'm looking at it.
I think you're right. I don't have the same
on the rating, but like a lot of this stuff in the first episode, like you said, like there's the whole thing where it's like take a number, and he's like, but it's just me, and it's like in another show you sit there and you're like, in this show you're just like,
yeah.
Hey, it's Loki, and he's gonna be the funny guy. Hey, this is just what the MCU is. Hey, and it's just like I've been doing this for 10 fucking years. Like Jesus Christ.
I don't know. The first episode I think is the most interesting episode. It's got the
agree.
most interesting things, but they're like
It's got its problems.
Yeah, and I think its problems are honestly just that it's Marvel.
I think there's even some problems that aren't Marvel.
True. But when they sit down and watch the movies, like I find that so boring, and it's because they sit down and go like, "Here's your character, Loki," and then I go, "Is it though?"
I want to point out that not 30 minutes ago did you say you wanted this series to be him going through the movies in the background.
That is completely different than sitting him down at, like, whatever.
I want a series.
Throw me under the bus. Throw me under the fucking bus. One, by taking what I said and changing it slightly. And two, like, I'm saying that is completely different from sitting him down in front of a fucking
video screen
and saying, watch your bullshit from before.
I only say that because I absolutely hated when they're just like, hey, remember these movies? This is all we are.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it. And again, like I said, I don't want them to necessarily jump through the movies. I'm just saying, like, that's a fun thing you could do with this. And instead, they don't do any fun things.
Yeah.
Like, that's not me saying, like, I want to watch them walk through the fucking movies. I'm just saying, like, that's a fun thing that we can do with the Marvel Universe. And instead, they don't do any fun thing with the Marvel Universe.
You want, like, a fun Rube Goldberg thing where he's, like, interacts, like, he steps on a butterfly in the Ang Lee Hulk movie, and now...
I mean, doesn't that sound like a more interesting show?
I'm not saying that as, like, a joke dig at you. I'm saying, like, yeah, like, this is dumb, I mean, yes, if it's not a Marvel show...
Like, if the show was called Loki Fucks Up the Marvel Universe.
Loki Pokey.
If it was called Loki Fucks Up the Marvel Universe, and it was just, like, each episode was him, like, fucking ruining the timeline because he's running around rampant and Owen Wilson is chasing after him.
At the beginning of each episode, he's like, I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah!
You just want Quantum Leap with Loki. Which isn't bad. That's what I want.
I just want anything that isn't just the sterile Marvel bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, the first episode is not this. I mean, it's bogged down by the sterile Marvel bullshit, but I honestly say if you take it holistically, it's not the sterile Marvel bullshit.
There's ideas.
It's more of the other thing. Yeah, there's more ideas. It turns into the sterile Marvel bullshit fast. WandaVision took 4 episodes to get there.
I think the ideas are gone in episode 2. At the start of episode 2.
I can honestly, like, barely remember episode 2.
They're at Oshkosh B'gosh, Wisconsin. They're at the Renaissance Fair, and then they're like, Loki, you screwed up. You're off the force. Hand in your gun.
I know a lot of stuff happened in episode 2. I can't remember it. Episode 3 felt like a huge waste of time because it's like you could cut half of it out and it doesn't matter. But episode 2 just like in one ear and out the other.
There is a lot of episode 2 that I don't quite... No, I guess Evil Walmart...
That's where they come up with the plan of how Sylvie is...
He's like, we gotta... Yeah, because... Okay, so we have Oshkosh B'gosh, Wisconsin, Renaissance Fair, figuring out the apocalypse stuff, and then Evil Walmart. That's redundant.
I also say, like, I think the Renaissance Fair is stupid because the joke isn't a joke. The joke is just, look at this. The joke is, oh, you think we're in medieval times? Well, we're not. Haha, it's a time travel show. It's stupid. That's all it is. And then they go in, like I said, there's the fight scene to the, like, awful music. The music itself isn't awful.
Yeah, what was that about? What'd they do? Watch fucking Umbrella Academy? And we're like, we should do that.
I hated it.
Why does everybody gotta have a fight to a pop song now? Because one show did it, and then everyone chases that magic.
Isn't there another pop song in episode 1? Episode 3 starts off with a pop song.
Yeah.
But that's in the flashback, so that gets a pass, I guess. But episode 1, I feel like there's a song thrown in episode 1 somewhere.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's just the credits.
I have no idea.
because the credits, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I don't care. Yeah, we're done with that.
Point is, I did not like these 3 episodes. I liked parts of them, but the second time through, really, like, the show is dead. And I mean, the first time through, the 3rd episode killed the show for me. I thought I liked the first episode well enough. The second episode I thought was fine. But when Loki, like, runs away from... It ends with Loki, like, running away from the TVA. And I was just like, don't care about this. I care about the Owen Wilson Loki buddy cop show. I don't care about Loki running off on his own in the second goddamn fucking episode. And then the third episode is them just like on the run.
TVA doesn't really exist in the third episode.
Yeah, the third episode like almost entirely killed the show for me the first time through. And the second time through it was even worse. I know where this show is going, and I still don't know what this show is doing. It exists for its end game.
Oh, I get it.
I've multiple times almost said end game, and I was like, as soon as I say end game, Seth's going to say, oh, I get it. So I like change my...
That's because the timekeepers are making sure I don't diverge and become a variant and star in a boring TV show.
Seth, anything else you want to talk about?
I feel like we should, since it hasn't been long, but no.
I mean, I don't have anything else to really say. Like,
I'm sure you could beat it out of me, but it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, it's all just kind of boring. Seth?
Wait.
Give me...
Let me figure out my 2 put-ups and a put-down, because then there's a couple things I want to touch on if I'm not touching on them there. That's cool. Yep, I like that. That sucks. There's an... Oh, I like that. Wait, what? Huh. Wonder what my other put-up is. Well, I can't make it this. I'm going to just talk about this now.
Are you really, like, looking at things, or are you just... I can't tell if this is a bit, where you're just like, I'm going to pretend I have so many things that could be put-ups.
No, I'm looking at things.
Okay. So, Seth?
No, I want to talk about this, because
Okay.
it can't be a put-up, because it's a cop-out, because it's metatextual.
What is it?
I like the title sequence. I like the little Loki letters changing, and it's all like the CRT screen, and I think that's nice. I don't like the logo. It looks gaudy and bad, but when it's all like black and white and fuzzy, I like that.
Someone made like a fan logo a while back that I really, really liked before the show revealed its actual logo. And then they revealed the actual logo, and I said, oh, that's ugly, and I don't like it.
Oh, that was it. Okay, first put up. I like the vintage...
Well, I gotta ask you, Seth. Give me 2 put-ups and a put-down.
Well, Andrew, I'm glad you asked. I like the vintage 50 Expo dump, because I love stuff like that, and I like 50s art styles like that, and they did a really good job with it. And I didn't care what they had to say, which is why I didn't understand what was happening in the other episodes, but it looked good. My second put-up is going to be, much to your chagrin, the last 7 minutes of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin's like, my body's burned. No, I like Children of Men, and it reminded me of that. And so I was like, well, add that to my list of things to watch. My put down is going to be, I hated when Sylvie and Loki are on the train and they're talking, and the show's like, is this what you care about? And then Seth on his couch is like, no, this is dumb.
You tried, show, but you did it wrong.
I hate it.
I got monkey pawed again.
It's just so... It doesn't answer questions. It causes more problems. I don't care about him making stupid little fireworks to have like, hey, you didn't show the ticket. Hey, yo. I didn't care about anyone. I hate them. They're my golden bullet targets. I really find Loki and Sylvie so uninteresting. I think Loki was more interesting paired with Owen Wilson, just because, I don't know, Owen Wilson felt like a character outside of the MCU, and Loki also felt like a character outside of the MCU because he's a different character now. But when he's paired up with, I don't know, I just hated his scenes with Sylvie.
My first put up is the little 1960s
how can you
video
not? It's so
cartoon
nice.
thing. It's a lot of fun. I think it very succinctly explains the premise that the show believes it's going by. I think its explanation is sound and fine. I just think the show doesn't like actually adhere to the explanation, and I don't think the universe can adhere to that explanation. It exists within itself. It's fine.
And a lot of that video is like pre-timeline where they're just like, yeah, the timekeepers blew up the timeline. Like,
my second put up is, this is with a little asterisk.
Oh yeah, my put-ups aren't, I hate these shows. My put-ups aren't actually good.
This is a little asterisk in that this is when viewed in a completely different show. But I like the first episode. I think a lot of the jokes are good in it. And I think a lot of like the weird, like I said, like retro future art deco nonsense is fun.
There's a lot of good fish out of water bits.
It just doesn't work in the universe as I understand it, and it doesn't work with Loki because he's a completely goddamn different fucking character now. Which he, to be fair, has always been a different character every time he shows up because he's mercurial.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have a character.
But like the show, like, I hate it. Minor put up, I think Owen Wilson is very good in this. I don't think his character, Mobius, is good because Mobius also fits in that same area of Loki where he's just kind of like weirdly smug about stuff I don't think he has any right to be smug about. Not that he's not right or wrong, but it's like, there's that thing where Loki like tries to trick everyone in episode 2, where he's like, go outside, there's a trap waiting for her, but I'm gonna tell her that I'm with the TVA now, and wink wink nudge nudge, we all believe me, right? And I'm like, this could not be any more of a ruse. Like, this isn't fooling anybody. And then Owen Wilson is like, I think he's right, but oh nope, never mind, I'm too smart for you, Loki. And I'm like, Mobius, you're not any smarter. Like,
that's fair.
Everybody is just like doing this smug, like, oh, we're all so brilliant. And I'm just like, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. You're all just like idiots one-upping each other. It's like people in a chat room.
That's like a peeing race.
Fucking YouTube comments. So that's annoying. But I like Mobius.
The living vampire? Why didn't they make him a living vampire? Because it's a different character? Yeah, well, so is Enchantress and Sylvie, so fuck it.
My put down is
Please keep that more.
kind of that rant that I just gave. But I'm going to say specifically, my put down is Loki in this. He is a completely different character, and I hate that scene where Owen Wilson sits him down and he's like, do you like hurting people? Let's watch some home movies. Tell me about how you felt when your mom died. Do you like it? Do you want to be in charge? And then when Loki sits down later and he's like, I don't like hurting people. It's part of the ruse because I'm weak. I'm a weak guy. Listen to me tell you who I truly am because there's no subtlety to fucking anything.
That was written by a college lit class.
Fucking hate it. It's so fucking stupid.
Don't have your characters tell how they feel.
It's so dumb. Especially because, like, that feels like the reveal that you need by the end of the series, not in episode fucking 1.
To be fair.
And I know that we've had this character around for movies by now.
But again, they're all different, so you have to finally sit them down and be like, this is who you're watching. This is the character now.
But then he continues like smarm around and he's like, I'm so clever, look at me go. I'm such a clever boy coming up with clever plans. And then Mobius is like, oh, I'm too smart for you. I can see through your clever plans. And it's just like fucking stupid. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so dumb. It's a waste of time.
Well, 207,000 people that rated 8.3 out of 10 can't be wrong.
They absolutely fucking can.
I mean, that's averaged. 207,000 people can't average 8.3 out of 10. We're the wrong hoes.
We are the wrong hoes.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at SoHowAbout.
And join us next time when we do this once more with Interference.
Watcher.
Seth, now that the mics are off, what are we watching next time?
Well, Andrew, I'm glad you asked. We're not going to be watching Loki the second half because we hate the first half so much, but we are.
We watched it nunts.
The show that was so bad, we were had. What's a good rhyme for that? What rhymes with nunts? Or no times? How about what rhymes with no times? Love it. We're going to watch fucking second half of Loki. It's not going to get any better. I hate these fucking things. Why do I always come to you and I'm like, hey, this is what I want to podcast on. We could do that. And then like 2 episodes in, I'm like, fuck me. What was I thinking? I hate all this garbage. And you're like, it'll be fine. And then like 4 episodes later, I'm like, I hate it. I'm going to kill myself. It'll be on your head.